Okay, we need to look at domain and range, finally identify these bottom parts. And so the only x value not part of this line in number 3 is 5. The only y value is negative, or is 10. So the domain is going to have two parts. It's going to have everything to the left of 5 and everything to the right of 5, but not 5. So very important that you use soft brackets. So it's not including 5. Very important. The range can't include 10, so it's going to be everything to 10 bottom and then 10 top. So like this is like the left and then the right part of the line from the hole, and this is the bottom part and then the top part. So remember, two parts because you have a hole. If I go and look at number 2's domain and range, I have a lot going on here. Please remember this hole is at an x value of 2. So the domain's going to have three parts. Oh my gosh. Negative infinity all the way up to 2. And then it's going to pick up from 2 and go to where the asymptote is at 6. And then it's going to pick up at 6 and go to the right forever. So this is going to be my middle part. And the reason I have to include the 2 is because of the hole. And the reason I have to include the 6 is because of the asymptote. Crazy word with the MPT altogether. The range, remember the y value of the hole is negative 1/4, is going to have a bottom part, negative infinity up to that negative 1/4. Then it's going to pick up from negative 1/4 to the asymptote line, which is 0, and then it's going to go 0 to infinity. So this 0 is because of the asymptote, and the negative 1/4 is because of the hole. So I have a lot of gaps here. If I go back to number 1 and I try to look at what's happening here, this one is unique. Something is going to have a hard bracket. On the domain, I'm going to have three parts. I'm going to have something to the left of negative 4, so negative infinity to negative 4, something between negative 4 and 2, and then something from 2 to infinity. So this is the left, the middle, and the right part. The range, however, oh, look out here. I have a bottom part that goes as high as negative 2/3. So the bottom part of the range goes negative infinity to negative 2/3 with a hard bracket. It actually reaches that point, but then there's a gap. There's no y values between that and the asymptote, which is at 0. So you'll pick up at 0 and go up. Even though there's two parts, it's still from 0 up to infinity. So that's unique. You have a hard bracket when you have this vertex. And notice the same numbers don't pick up. There's a gap between negative 2/3 and 0. We'll see something similar to that as we finish 4. When I look at my excluded values, I'm looking to start with negative infinity, and I'm going to come all the way over to negative 3/2, because that's where that left-hand vertical asymptote is. I'll pick up from negative 3/2 and go to 1. That's the right vertical asymptote, and then 1 to infinity. But the range. I go as high as negative 16/25. So my bottom part of the range is going to go negative infinity to negative 16/25 with a hard bracket, because I actually equal that value. And then there's a gap. There's nothing happening between that and 0, so you'll pick up at 0 and go to infinity. So what's the takeaway? If you have a gap due to a vertex, expect to see a hard bracket in your range. Good luck!